Hello, Oracles. Today we're going to go over the expectations for Tesla's earnings coming out tomorrow. We will also go through the Q&A that they're going to be going through when it comes to all of the retail investors as well. Kind of give a brief overview of what I think the answers are going to be that Tesla gives. I've been pretty close and accurate in the past, and sometimes Tesla has surprised us and given us answers where I didn't think they would. But I will do my best to do the answering what I think they're going to be saying, and we'll go over that in just a minute. Now, before we jump into this, if you guys could do me a favor and please hit that like button down below, subscribe to the channel, really helps the algorithm out, helps the channel grow. All right, so looking at the expectations for earnings tomorrow. So the big numbers we're going to be looking at, as per usual, EPS is always one of the biggest numbers, and gross margins are going to be the next big one. The big questions on many investors' mind is, have margins bottomed? We have been seeing some good numbers coming out of China when it comes to insured numbers. We got the delivery numbers and production numbers coming out for Q3. We saw 444,000 vehicles getting produced and 440,000 vehicles getting delivered, moving nicely in the right direction. We have been seeing some strong numbers coming out of China for the insured vehicles. This morning, they came in at 13,200 for last week. So again, numbers are growing strongly out of China, which of course is their second biggest market. And so seeing them coming back up is very good. Now, we do know that they have been constricting production over there strictly because, well, the demand hasn't been there. So it's not a situation that we had like back in 2021 where they were production constrained, but they're now demand constrained. But that is starting to come back. So regardless of how demand goes, even if for some freak reason, and I doubt it will, but if the China demand grows rapidly, Tesla can keep up with it with production. So that's not going to be a question. So it's really going to come down to margins. And of course, what's the FSD take rate when it comes to margins? We don't know these numbers. Maybe they let us know this time, but I highly doubt it. So when you can start looking at those numbers and having that get to the bottom line to really pad those margins, because that's almost 100% margin going into the FSD numbers, then you can start saying, all right, margins are coming back up. But auto gross margins are going to be huge, and then overall margins are also going to be important. So first, at looking at the EPS numbers. So the EPS estimates from the analysts is 60 cents per share. Now, Troy Teslake, who has been following Tesla for a very long time, and Troy, who's been pretty close with his numbers very often, has been more bearish, and he's pretty realistic. Like, a lot of people give Troy crap because he comes out with realistic things that a lot of Uber bulls are just mad at him for. So kudos to Troy for just, holding his ground and saying, this is the factual information he sees. This is it. Deal with it. And if you can't deal with it, I'm sorry. So kudos to Troy. So thank you so much for all that. And I'll share his numbers. So his estimates are 55 cents per share. So below analyst estimates when it comes to the EPS. And last quarter, EPS numbers were at 52 cents. So even with Troy's numbers, it's still a growth in EPS, which is a very good sign. Analyst expectations are a little bit more than that. So we'll see where we fall. As long as we're ahead of last quarter's EPS, I think it's a good thing. But don't forget, when analysts are expecting a certain number, the price of the stock is basically based upon that price that analysts are expecting. So, but even if we come in at a 55 cent like Troy expects, that's going to be a growth, but it's going to be lower than expectations. So we could see a little bit of a sell-off. Again, I'm not playing the game of how is it going to go? How is the stock going to trade after earnings? But I'm just saying, if it moves that way, that could be a reason why. There's obviously a ton of other factors that could go into this as well. And we'll get into that with margins also. And so looking at margin expectations, we've got analysts expecting auto gross margins to come in at 14.9%. Troy is expecting a 14%. And now if we think back a few years ago, Tesla was pushing over 30% for automotive gross margins. And of course, what happened since then? The Fed went up on interest rates. And then due to COVID, a lot of the costs that they had associated with the vehicles went way up due to supply chain issues. Those have been sorted out. But as those got sorted out, the interest rates went up. So we ended up getting the demand coming down. So Tesla has had to cut prices significantly on a lot of their vehicles. They've had to make a lot of fancy things going on with all of their lending and criteria going out for financing. So for that whole entire aspect of it right there, Tesla's had the margins beat down. So the question is now that the Fed is starting to cut rates, are we going to see a turnaround? Of course, we have been seeing the deliveries coming out of China getting stronger. We know it's going to take some time for the Fed rate cuts to actually take effect when it comes to Tesla's revenues. It's not like a 50 basis point cut means all of a sudden, Tesla's margins are going to go through the roof, especially considering it happened at the beginning of September. So that gave less than a month for Tesla to actually realize some of this. So the effect of that may be felt in Q4, but I still think it's going to take some time for all of that to play out, especially depending on how quickly the Fed is going to be cutting rates. Again, we find out the next rate cut coming on November 11th. So when it comes to Tesla itself, These margins are what we're looking at. We're a 14.9 for analyst expectations, so 14% from Troy. So the goal from here is, have we hit the bottom? Are we going to be climbing out when it comes to the automotive gross margins? And for Q2, we were at 14.6% when it came to the automotive gross margins. So we'll see where we fall. Analysts are expecting a growth out of it. Troy is not. So again, have we hit the bottom? We will find out tomorrow. And then the last number is going to be operating margins. So we have seen a step up from the low. The low we had for operating margins was a 5.5% for Q1 of this year. We went up to a 6.3% for Q2. So if we can see that growth continuing to go back up. Now, don't forget, Tesla did a lot of high managerial layoffs, a lot of personnel restructuring going on. So we may see some of those numbers reflected in this. So if they can push up those operating margin numbers as well, that's also going to be a positive sign for investors. All right, so now we're going to get into the Q&A that we're going to be seeing tomorrow. And some of these may change because it's all based upon votes, but some of these have some pretty high numbers of votes, so I don't think that they're going to be changing. So we'll just go through these one at a time, and some are kind of redundant, so I'll let you know. So the first question is going to be, is Tesla still on track to deliver the more affordable model next year, as mentioned by Elon earlier? And how does it align with your AI and product roadmap? So I believe that they're still going to be in line. Elon has said many times that Q2 of next year is when they're going to be starting production on this compact car. We're not going to hear anything about it when it comes to what the actual platform is going to be, pricing, anything like that. We're not going to know anything about that until probably really close to it, maybe Q2 earnings. My guess on this is reality is going to hit. We're going to hit probably Q2 earnings. They're going to say, hey, here, we're going to have our annual shareholder meeting in June, and then they're going to announce it in June with probably a release of the vehicle maybe in July. So I think it's going to be a very quick turnaround between announcement and release date on this to minimize any cannibalization and Osborning effect going on when it comes to the Model 3 and Model Y. So when it comes to the alignment with the AI and product roadmap, I think it's going to be basically the same platform as the robotaxi or the robocab that we saw come out. I have a feeling it's going to be exactly the same. We're going to see a two-seater, but it's going to have a steering wheel and pedals. That's really going to be the big difference between the two, but I think it's going to be the same platform because having the same production line for the two of them is going to be much more efficient for them to run it this way. So I have a feeling that's what they're going to end up doing, is running those two. And because of the fact that robotaxi isn't going to be actually going into production for a few more years, it will give them time to make this compact car and work out any kinks or find any better ways to be more efficient and cost effective when it comes to the robotaxi before that officially gets released. So I think that's what we're going to end up seeing. Of course, you won't announce any of that specifically when it gets to the call tomorrow, but it's going to align with the AI and product roadmap because it's going to be straight in line when it comes to the robotaxi and being the same platform. Next question, when can we expect Tesla to give us the approximately $25,000 non-robotaxi regular car model? Same question as above. That's going to come next year. Next question is, what is Tesla doing to alleviate long waiting times on service centers? So this one here, we know that they've got the app. There's a lot of things they can do. They can go into homes to do this. So this obviously comes down to customer service. Tesla has addressed this in the past. It is something that they're focusing on trying to improve. It's obviously not one of their top priorities because these questions still continue to come up. So we'll see how Elon answers it tomorrow. Next one, just generically, what's the plan for 2025? So, I don't know if they're going to announce it, but they're going to announce compact car coming out next year. Of course, they won't say that. And they're just going to be announcing, growth. FSD is going to be probably getting into Europe and China next year is my guess. They're going to continue ramping energy. So I would love to hear if they answer more of this. Again, I've been wrong in the past where I thought that they were going to kind of keep their lips sealed with a bunch of things, and then they've announced stuff. Not big announcements, but at least giving us more insight and clarity as to what they're coming out with. So maybe we'll hear about that tomorrow. Next question is, when will Tesla incorporate X and Grok in all of Tesla vehicles? This is something I had predicted when Elon was first talking about buying Twitter. When he thought about buying that, I was like, you know what? He can have this and make that part of the entire ecosystem when it comes to Teslas, and he can have that be their base platform when people sit down into the vehicle. You go in, you've got your vehicle, and you can go right onto X right there and have Grok be part of it. So I think that is coming. Probably won't end up coming maybe till robo-taxis actually become a reality, maybe a little bit before that, if they can get it all set. But obviously, if you're in a robo-taxi and it's driving itself, how are you going to keep yourself occupied? Cool, play around on the screen right there. You've got X right there. You got Grok that can do whatever you want. I think it's going to be integrated for sure. Probably won't see it for a couple of years though. Next question, please provide an update on Semi. What will the next stage of growth look like and when will FSD be ready? That's actually a big one. And Semi is kind of that sleeper which came out, to a little bit of fanfare, but we really haven't heard much about it since then. So I would be really interested to see because this could change over the road trucking, but it's going to take some time as we know. Obviously, battery production needs to get ramped up significantly. We're going to need to see the technology growing up. And FSD is going to be the big component of it because if you can have semis driving over the road without having to worry about drivers being in there, then you don't have to worry about drivers hitting certain hour limits, having to go to sleep. You can then produce a lot more and be a lot more efficient when it comes to delivering product. And we've already been seeing from Pepsi when it comes to Frito-Lay and all their products that they've been using them and they've been seeing good results. So it would be nice to see if they can give us a better update for next year as to what we can see going forward. Next question, what's going on with Tesla Roadster? Elon has addressed this. It is coming. They're talking about it. They're designing it. Got a lot of good things that are coming for it. It's just not top of the radar when it comes to their roadmap right now, but it looks like that should be coming out in the next couple of years. Next question, when will Optimus be shipping? It's going to be a while. Now, Elon's going to rebut with this with a question of be shipping to who? Because he's going to say, well, when it comes to they're already using them in the factories right now, shipping to other companies who might be using them in the factories could be in the next few years. Shipping to people's homes could be in 5 to 10 years. Now, his timelines are probably going to be aggressive like that. Realistically, I think we're probably going to see them coming into factories maybe by the end of the decade to help in other manufacturers as well. And then I think it's going to be probably 15 years or so before it actually comes into homes because the regulations behind it, you think regulating FSD and robotaxis are going to be hard. Just wait till you try to regulate an autonomous robot into your own home. That's going to be wild. A good question here is, will Hardware 3 be capable of level 5 FSD? In the past, Elon has said yes. He said it will be, but I want to know if that still holds true because obviously all the capabilities of the new hardware that they have, and we've got Hardware 5 going to be coming out, with all of that new capability that we have with that and all of the different changes that have been going on with FSD, is Hardware 3 going to be able to do it at level 5? So again, that would be very interesting. And now realistically, level 5 is no steering wheel, no pedals. So if that is the case, then Hardware 3 is not going to matter because by the time we end up getting that, that's going to be in the robocabs, and that's going to be probably Hardware 6, if not 7 at that point. So this is kind of a moot question right here, but level 4 could be different because level 4 is going to be a driver is going to be in there with steering wheel and pedals, but you don't have to pay attention to the road. So realistically, this question should be, will Hardware 3 be capable of level 4 FSD? So he may correct that and then answer it. And so those are the top questions that are probably going to be answered over there. They may go into more. Sometimes in the past, they've done a lot more of these retail questions. So it'll be interesting to see how deep they dive into these. And then, of course, they take the analysts' questions as well. And again, the last couple of earnings calls, they've been a lot more transparent with a lot of this information. So hopefully they continue with that trend and we get a lot more transparency and clarity from them. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know how you think that they're going to be answering those questions tomorrow. Let me know what your expectations are when it comes to their earnings numbers themselves. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Have a great one.